Welcome to my channel. I'm Miss Borderline. I bring you true crime on this channel. I do cover a lot of child murders and child neglect cases because I believe their voices need to be heard. Thank you for all my subscribers, and if you haven't subscribed already, please consider it and give me a like if you're enjoying the content. So today's case takes us to E-Course, which is in Michigan in the USA. James Edward Gibson, 35 years old at the time of this crime, was the boyfriend of Lisa Marie Reed, who was also 35 years old. Now, she was autistic, but she was actually high functioning. She was the mother of 4, but only had custody of her 2 twins, which at the time of the incident were just 13-month-old. On the 28th of July 2020, police and paramedics responded to the home, which was on the 3900 block of 7th Street, due to a child being unresponsive. Paramedics and emergency services went to the apartment and they noticed that it was in disarray. There was dried blood in the room where the toddler's cribs were located. But more importantly, they saw an unresponsive child on the floor who was being administered a CPR by who we now know was James Edward Gibson. So paramedics and the emergency services took over the life-saving treatment, but unfortunately they were unable to revive the young toddler, whose name was Zyaire, despite all their efforts. Baby Zyaire, who was not breathing, obviously at the time they arrived, had injuries to his left eye, which had broken blood vessels. He had injuries to his ears, he had a split lip, abrasions on his forehead, and damage to the inside of his mouth. Reed, the boy's mother, she was hysterical as emergency services pronounced the boy dead at the scene. Now, we later found out that baby Zyaire had 21 fractures in his ribs. So that's like each rib had like 2 fractures each. He also had brain damage and a lot of facial bruises. So emergency responders noted that the twin baby brother, whose name was Zion, also showed signs of injury and abuse. Now, he had 12 fractures in his ribs. He had a broken femur and damage to the orbital area, which, around the eyes. He also had a broken hip, a broken nose, and bleeding on the brain. Now, Zyaire was confirmed obviously deceased once he got to the hospital, and they rushed Zion in for emergency surgery for 2 broken collarbones and a broken left femur. Now, officials said that Zion's ears were so badly injured that they believed that he was actually picked up by his ears. Now, the mother, Lisa Reed, she was immediately taken into custody at the scene. Her boyfriend, James Gibson, had actually fled the scene. Now, they later tracked him down to River Rouge, and where he was at his dad's house in Romulus. So he was calling people saying he's not going back to jail. They found him in Sumter Township at his uncle's house, and he had been getting dropped off by members of his family, so being transported around, tried to evade the police. He was eventually located, and after fighting with police, he was actually arrested. Now, Gibson already had a criminal record. And get this, I don't understand this. He was actually out on parole. At the time of this happening, he was out on parole for a child abuse case. So he already had a history of abusing children, and he was actually out on parole at the time. Now, Gibson was charged with first-degree murder in the case of Zyaire and first-degree child abuse in the case of Zion. Now, Gibson pleaded guilty, and he pled guilty to second-degree murder and first-degree child abuse in the death of Zyaire and the abuse of his twin brother Zion, respectively. Now, he was sentenced on the 20th of January this year, that's 2023. He received a minimum sentence of 20 years for the first degree child abuse and a minimum of 33 years for the second degree murder of baby Zyaire. Now, Lisa, the mother of the boys, she is facing first degree child abuse in the case of Zion and second degree murder in the death of Zyaire. She's been pleading not guilty. She has a jury trial scheduled for August the 23rd this year, so it's sometime this month. I'm going to keep an eye on that, so if I have any updates on it, I'll bring that to you. Lisa's sister Jennifer Reed said, the picture is being overshadowed with emphasis on a mother that probably didn't know how to respond to her mental and emotional abilities in such an overwhelmingly emotional situation. Now, I know I've said before that she had 4 children and she only had custody of the two twins. So, I've been trying to find out about the other children, why they were removed from her care, if they were, or maybe, they're just living with the other parent. Either way, if you've got, 2 out of your 4 children actually staying with you in your care, then I'm sure that you will do everything possible to make sure that the 2 children you do have in your custody are safe. Now, I know in the USA, it's not so big in the UK, but in the USA, I understand that there are checks that you can make, on your boyfriend, partner, girlfriend, whoever, just to check in the background. See if there's anything that you should be concerned about when actually letting them into your life and into your children's life. So she obviously didn't do this, or unless she did, she would have known that this guy was already on parole for child abuse. It's such an easy thing to do nowadays. It's a phone call away. It's, a web fucking page that you have to fill out all your details in. It doesn't take more than 10 minutes to do. You might have to wait for the result, but ain't that worth it to make sure that your children are safe? Now, the police officers in this case and the firefighters and all the nurses and the doctors were all affected by this case. They were all traumatised. There was an outpouring of love from the city of Michigan. People asking or whether they can help or support or take in Zion, the surviving child. Including, it was one of the police officers' own daughter offered, and also other police officers offered to even foster Zion. Well, I'm pleased to say that Zion has recovered, and he is with a loving family now who's taking good care of him. They have other children as well. He's being loved. He's actually even walking now. So my prayers are with all those that loved Zion and all those that loved Zyaire and all those affected in this case. Well, thank you for tuning in to this quick 10-minute quickie, as I call it. Hopefully it's not one that you've heard on before. Some of these do go underground because there is not a lot of information out there, to be able to bring together, to bring it to light, basically. And though there was limited information on this case, what limited information there was, I hope I've brought it to you and highlighted this case. So thank you again for tuning in. If you can check out my Patreon page, that would be great, and I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe. So until the next case, toodaloo.